Hall sports all plays. Hall sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. Grind the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Hall sports all plays. Hall sports all plays. Hall sports all plays. Hall sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Hall sports all plays. Hall sports all plays. We on top of our game. Hall sports all plays. Hall sports all plays.
All right. Welcome to the afternoon blitz, ASAP afternoon blitz. I'm Chris. Got Greg with me. I think Dustin's going to join here in a little bit. So it should be a good show today.
Oh yeah.
Had a lot of stuff going on over the weekend. NBA playoff series are changing. Went from looking like there might be some sweeps to now the series are evening up some. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few days in the NBA.
Yeah, we've gone from, the Suns and the Heat are going to the conference finals to, no, they might not make it. And the Suns one is a little bit more shocking because they just look so much better than Dallas the first two games. And now these last two games in Dallas has figured something out because, Chris Paul was a no-show this last game, but Doncic did his thing with some help in game 3, and then Doncic had an average game by, Doncic standards. He only had 25, but the others have stepped up for Dallas these last two games, and it's ended in 2 wins. So going back to Phoenix, the pressure is now on Phoenix now. I feel like they have to get this game. If they go down 3-2 going back to Dallas, this might be the end for the Suns as far as this season. I don't think they can win a game 6 down 3-2 at Dallas. So it's a must-win game. It's a must-win for both teams. This game 5, the series tied at 2, but it's more pressure on Phoenix to win this game 5.
What was crazy to me about it was this weekend we had James Harden step up and play a good game in the playoffs, and Chris Paul not play good at all for basically 2 games, because even on the game on Friday, he had quite a few turnovers and didn't shoot the ball very well either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he really hasn't showed up the last 2 games.
Yeah, it's been no-show. Kind of reminds you of the finals when he kind of, disappeared for a couple games when they got up 2-0 there too. So it's crazy. But I look for Phoenix to bounce back. I think CP3 will, bounce back. And, I do think Phoenix will win that game 5. It's just they're going to have to use a lot more effort than they did the first 2 games. So, but credit Dallas for getting back in the series. So, I mean, awesome job by them and Jason Kidd, and it's now a best of 3.
Yeah,
best of 3 now, and credit James Harden finally showing up too for the Sixers. How about it? It took long enough.
Yeah, after the way he played them first 2 games, I didn't think that series was going to be real great, and now that turned into a series. Spurs and Suns, it didn't look like that was going to be much of a series. That's turned into a series now. Then Then the Warriors in Memphis on their looking at that game. Now it's the big question: is Morant? How healthy is Morant going to be, and is he going to be all right?
Yeah.
And them two teams are getting a little chippy. I like it.
It is very old school in this series, yes. After Morant hurt his knee, he had tweet that the Warriors broke the code. As far as he feels like he was injured on purpose by Jordan Poole, which I don't feel like that's what it was. Jordan Poole is playing tight defense. He's trying to, strip the ball. And unfortunately, Morant's knee gets caught in there and it gets twisted. I don't think Jordan Poole was like, hey, let me intentionally injure John Morant's knee to give us a better chance of this series. I think a lot of Kerr was being a little sensitive when it happened to Gary Payton. I got it. That's one of your best players getting injured, so you're going to be a little mad about it. This one with Jordan Poole and Ja might feel like that was on purpose, but when you look at it, it doesn't seem like that. And Jordan Poole doesn't have a history of being dirty or injuring guys on purpose. So I don't think that's what that was. It was just a freak injury, and sadly, if he does miss a game, it makes it harder for them to. Win the series.
Yeah, I didn't think there was anything dirty about it. I know they said something about Jordan Poole grabbing his knee.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen the replay of it. But when I first saw it, I didn't think it was much of anything myself, really. So I didn't think that was dirty. I don't know how you can't compare that to what Brooks done.
All right, yeah.
And like I said with Brooks, if he wouldn't have got injured, they wouldn't even be talking about that as much as they are.
All right, yeah.
That's the only reason they're talking about that is because he broke his arm or his elbow or whatever. That's the only reason they're talking about that. It's not because of the foul was hard. You know what I mean? If he wouldn't have got hurt, if he got back up and kept playing, he might have got a flagrant one, but he wouldn't have got ejected.
Yeah,
because this guy got hurt.
Right. Yeah, they punished him for the end result of that, but it's a must-win game for Memphis in this game 4. You go down 3-1, it makes it that much harder to come back. So we don't know if Ja is going to be able to play. So if he can't, the Memphis has shown they can win games, without him. So they will still have a chance.
Yeah, Memphis is 20-5 this year without Morant.
Yeah, 20-5 without him. So they know how to get it done without him. But that's a tall order you're trying to beat Golden State at Golden State, and it's a playoff game. So
yeah, and I think Steph and Clay are starting to shoot. They're starting to find their rhythm shooting a little better. They look a lot better shooting in their last game.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. Though they're not going to shoot that bad the whole series. They're just, at least I didn't think they would.
Yeah, they weren't going to shoot bad the whole series. Looking at their numbers real quick, they were combined. Curry and Thompson were 15 out of 27 shooting, which it's not bad.
Well, a little over 50%.
A little over 50%. So so they did get better in game 3. Clay was 4 for 6 from the 3. So you got that, and then you match that with Jordan Poole's 27 coming off the bench. I mean, that's the formula. that Golden State's been winning with in these playoffs. So, and we knew that Memphis was due for a bad game, and that was that, definitely losing by 30. So the bad game is out of their system, and we'll see how they do in this game 4. But without Ja, if it is without him, I know they're 20-5 without him,
I
but
think they're
it's a tall order.
I think they're in big trouble without Ja. I
Yeah.
really do. And I know they're 20-5 without him, but that's in the regular season. Who
Yeah.
knows what teams they were playing
Yeah.
during them 25 games? Was you playing the Houston Rockets and Indiana Pacers and teams like that, or were you? I mean, now you're in the playoffs. You're playing one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a bigger deal now than what it would be maybe in the regular season. Yeah, you can. There's still a lot of teams you played the regular season you can beat without Morant, but you're not playing. You're not playing a top level team every night. Now in the playoffs, you're playing a top level team every game.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a big difference. I think if they don't have Morant tonight, they're going to be in. Or well, it is tonight, isn't it?
I believe it is. Yeah, Monday. Yeah, so it's tonight. Yeah, tonight at 9. Yes, 9 Central Time.
Wait,
Yeah.
no, it's 76ers and. Or wait, I'm at the wrong one. Yeah,
Yeah, it's Celtics and Bucks.
yeah.
and
Boston,
Warriors.
Boston Celtics and Grizzlies and Warriors.
Yeah.
I turned my page the wrong way and I was looking at I think Friday's schedule
Oh, okay.
where I write all the topics and stuff down. Turn the page wrong. I was like, wait a minute. So in the night's games,
Mhm.
Boston and Bucks. What do you think's going to happen in that series? Well, we hadn't talked about the Boston and Bucks over the weekend
Oh,
either.
yeah,
That was, so we can talk about. We can kind of talk about both.
Yeah. That was a good game. Game 3 was very good. Boston had their chances there towards the end. Marcus Smart missing free throws. Excuse me, towards the end. Giannis and Drew Holiday making big shots. So now, in this game 4, of course, it's a must-win for the Celtics. You don't want to go down 3-1. I feel like the Bucks need to go ahead and kind of begin to shut the door on this Celtics team, because you let them hang around and they go back to Boston and it's tied 2-2. Okay, it starts getting a little shaky now. So I feel like it's a bigger game for the Bucks just to go up 3-1, going back to Boston, and if you lose that one, you have the closeout game back in your home for Game 6. So it's a bigger game, I feel like, for the Bucks to be able to have that scenario. But for the Celtics, Jason Tatum and Brown, they have to do their thing, and it's there. The games have been well, except for the first 2 games where the Bucks dominated the Celtics, and then the Celtics dominated the Bucks in Game 2. Game 3 was the first close game. So I still like the Bucks in this series. I like them tonight to go up 3-1, and I feel like it's a bigger game for the Bucks as far as let's go ahead and win tonight and get closer to maybe having some rest if the Sixers and Heat go 7 games. So
I see your point, but I think it's a bigger game for the Celtics.
Yeah.
Because if you lose this game and go down 3-1, I don't see the Celtics beating Giannis and the Bucks 3 games in a row.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So I think it's a bigger game for the Celtics in that fact. You need to get the series to 2-2 where it's even, and I think then they are still in the series. You go down 3-1. I don't see Giannis and the Bucks losing 3 games in a row.
No.
So that's why I think it's a bigger game for the Celtics. But I see your point with the Bucks too. You want to get that 3-1 lead. The Celtics kind of blew that game at the end a little bit, I thought, and referees were terrible.
Yeah, it was some calls that was.
Well, there's one call I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Just a few seconds left. Marcus Smart has the ball, clearly goes up, makes the tip to shoot the ball, and they call the foul on the ground. How was that not a shooting foul? He never got touched until he started to go up.
That's definitely a shooting foul.
Dude, he should have got 3 free throws right there. Well, and he missed some.
Yeah, he missed.
But still, that's 3 free throws could have tied the game up.
Yeah.
But they were terrible in a lot of the games. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, how is that? And then I think they even reviewed it, didn't they? They reviewed it and still called it a non-shooting foul. It's like, how can you look at that replay and say, especially the way it's called all year, the way the N1s are called all year.
Yep.
They count as an act of shooting all year long. So why you can't change it at the end of a playoff game?
Exactly. Yeah. And the NBA, they always give the and ones and all that. Whereas in college, it's hard to get an and one because as soon as they blow the whistle, there's no continuation, there's no nothing. So in the pros, they kind of let them do that, and I was kind of shocked that they didn't give him those. Didn't say that was a shooting foul, but refs have been kind of off. They've been kind of off in these playoff games. Hopefully it gets better. I hope that I don't want the finals to be like that, but yeah, that's definitely a shooting foul. Marcus Smart should have had his free throws, but officiating was not all that good the past few games.
No, then another thing I wanted to talk about, Chris Paul, he ain't played good, but I guess his family had some altercations with some fans and stuff.
Yeah.
They're saying that fans put their hands on his family and on his mom and stuff. He came out and said that players get in trouble for doing that to fans, but fans get away with it. Well, I understand what he was trying to say, but the fans don't get away with it because they were escorted right out of the building and probably banned. So I mean, there's a punishment for them. Fans shouldn't be doing that. I mean, if I don't understand how somebody thinks just because you buy a ticket you can just go in there and act a fool, do whatever you want.
Exactly.
I understand yelling at players and stuff. That's part of fan. I mean, that's what fans have done for years. You'll interact, yell at players some, and that's okay. But putting your hands on somebody or saying something that can get personal, it's just there's no reason for that.
Yeah, there is.
This goes back to like last week when I told you about the players flipping off the fans. They shouldn't get fined for that.
No, they shouldn't. No. No.
And same on this. I understand what Chris Paul's saying. Yeah, that shouldn't happen. I hate that it happened, but the fans don't just you can't just say the fans get away with it because no, they do get took it out of the game. A lot of them get banned for life. So, I mean, they do get a punishment. It ain't just like they get away with it. But and that's one great thing about the NBA because you can get so close and you feel like you're part of the game. So I don't know how the NBA really changes it because you're going to have idiots act like idiots sometimes. It sucks, but it happens. And unless you move the fans a little farther away from the court, like in the NFL or some of the other sports, where you know what I mean, it's a lot harder to really get to a player. I mean, what else can the NBA really do? And you don't really want to do that because then that takes away from the game. Because I mean, they make a lot. fans pay a lot of money to sit down there right there courtside.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they, you know what I mean? They don't want, and you can say put more security, but there's only so much room there beside the court to put people.
Yeah, right.
Well, so I mean, it's a tough situation, but I mean, I just understand what Chris Paul was saying, and I think it sucks, especially because they said his kids was there and everything.
Right, yeah.
But the fans just don't get away with it. But fans need to start. Just not just fans, if just people in general would treat people the way you want people to treat you, a lot of this could be avoided.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. When I first heard about it, I was like, what in the heck? Like, we're putting hands on moms and wives, and this is just craziness. And Chris Paul has every right to be mad.
Oh,
I know if that was me, somebody is putting their hands on my mom or my wife, I'm ready to do something. Like, hold on, what's all this going on now? You know, so
ready to throw some hands.
Right, exactly, right. Yeah. Yeah, so hold on now. We out here, tripping a little bit now, but now here's the deal though, is because one of these times these fans is gonna do something to either player's spouse or family or something, and if it turns into Malice in the Palace 2, I don't want then the NBA saying, well, we're going to suspend these players for jumping in the stands and doing no. Because when you had a chance to nip it, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
So now this is the consequence of that. Not saying I want another Malice in the Palace. I'm just saying this is what happens when you don't.
I'll never forget that.
That was craziness too. Yeah.
I left some big Pacer fan.
Yeah.
And the Pacers had a good team. I mean, we had a great team that year.
Yep. They were.
I really felt like we was going to have a chance to compete, be contenders that year. And then everybody gets suspended for almost the whole damn season. Kind of ruined Reggie Miller's last season.
Yeah. It was fine until somebody threw that cup at Ron Artest, and it was over after that. But it's one of those deals where
there were some people that were just lucky that some of them swings missed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Somebody could have got knocked out for sure. But it's one of those deals where. And Shaq was talking about it yesterday after the game. And he said what he did in when he had road playoff games or road finals is he would have some of his bigger cousins or, whatever, uncles. They would be with his then wife and the kids and all that in their section. So his deal to them was, if anybody does anything, looks like they about to put their hands on somebody, you put their paws on them first, and that's going to be the end. Yeah. So Shaq had his own personal, bodyguards for his family.
Almost his own little personal security team.
Security, right, for his own, for the road playoff game. So I feel like for the star players like Chris Paul and Book and all of them, if they want to bring family on the road, have your own personal security. It can either be an outside person, you can hire a bodyguard or whatnot, or someone in your family that you trust, or people that are kind of buff in nature, or got a kind of mean streak in them. Say, hey. If y'all see anything or somebody's rowdy,
the best.
Yeah.
Which it'd probably be hard to do because a lot of people have them suites for like the whole season and stuff. But if you could, the best thing would be if they could do a thing where the players could get their families in a suite in one of the suite boxes.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have a couple guys like Shaq did be there. because they usually always, well, anyway, they have a person stand outside the door to check tickets, make sure you're allowed to go in that suite anyway.
Exactly.
It'd be a lot harder for fans even for anything to happen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And maybe the NBA, that's another thing that they can do next season is for the playoffs, visiting family can have their own little suite or something, something like that. But
it sucks. You have to think like that. But I mean, that just that would make it harder for anybody to really get to it.
Yeah, it makes it hard. Yeah, and
just man, I don't know. I don't understand where people think that it's right to do shit like that. I mean,
it's not. It's not. And I don't know what this guy was thinking. He looks like he's probably in his 20s or something.
He's probably drunk.
Yeah, he's probably drunk. Yeah.
When one of his friends dared him to do something, or it was probably something stupid like that.
Yeah, and he's acting silly and stuff. So I feel bad that happened. I know, just me. I am married, so I was just thinking to myself, if I was in that situation and my wife is getting, hollered at, or someone's trying to put hands on her, how I would feel about that. And, it would definitely, it definitely makes you mad, especially we're fighting over what your team is better than mine, or you don't like my wife because I'm, Chris Paul or something, and I'm beating your team. Like this is just, silliness. So, so hopefully that guy, he can never, go to another Mavs game, and that. So, but I will say for players, as the playoffs go on, we have our conference finals and our finals. If you're going to have your family with you on the road, have somebody there, either a professional bodyguard or someone in your family that can kind of, nip that stuff.
And not only because if Chris Paul would have found out about it during the game, hell, he might have got kicked out of the game. You know what I mean? So then,
that's what it went up there. Yeah.
then it affects the rest of your playoffs.
Yeah.
Because now when your stars are going to be, they're going to suspend them.
All
so
right.
If it's my wife and I'm playing it and I'm out there playing and I either saw it or heard about it, there's a good chance I'm gonna be up in the stands.
Right, yeah, like what's going on? And I would hope in that situation, because somebody else started it, I would hope that the league, if that did happen and Chris went up there, I would hope they wouldn't suspend him for that next time, only because it's somebody else trying to do harm to his family.
No, I agree with you, but
yeah,
I just don't see the NBA doing that.
Yeah, I know.
Because I felt like they suspended or tested them guys too many games.
Oh yeah, they got.
Don't get me wrong. They should have got. I understand getting suspended because you shouldn't go, but let somebody throw a beer in your face. Let's see what you're going to do.
Exactly.
I'm not saying our test was right for going out there, but if somebody threw a damn cup of beer at me, I might be up in the stands as well. So I mean,
yeah,
I can understand why he went after the dude. I'd be pissed too.
All right, yeah, definitely, yeah.
But I was like, man, there ain't no way they should be suspended that many damn games.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me think that they would at least suspend them, which, and like I said, that would change the whole playoffs.
Change the playoffs, right?
But he hasn't. Don't get me wrong. He's been pretty terrible the last two games. I don't know what's going on. If Suns are going to have a chance, he's going to have to play better.
Yeah, I don't know. He turned.
Especially if the Mavs shoot the ball like they did in Game 4.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit like 14 threes in the first half of the game, tied a franchise record. They were. I mean, everybody was hitting them.
Yeah, Cleveland was making threes. Cleveland was making threes. Yeah, the series has changed now. So it's CP3 has to show up in this game 5. Um, you don't want it to be like it was in the finals where the first 2 games were great, by him, and then he disappeared for a couple, and then once the Bucks took that momentum away from the Suns, they ended up winning that final. So um, this is a big game for not just the Suns, but for Chris Paul as well. This game 5, you don't want his legacy is solid. The only thing that's kind of tainted is, like I said, he disappeared for a couple of those finals games last year. You don't want to disappear in this one because this stain, it will be kind of hard to get off.
Yeah.
Only because you lost to Luka and a couple of his buddies that finally decided to show up and play. It's like, oh, you guys finally decided to show up and play. Good.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Luke, I don't think. I know a lot of people. Luka gets a lot of respect, but I don't think he gets enough because he might be the best player in the world right now. He's probably the best scorer right now. I don't see, man.
He's the best scorer, yeah, definitely he's the best scorer. Yeah, him and Giannis are kind of neck and neck for best player, yeah, for sure. Hey, what's going on, Dustin?
What's going on, Greg and Chris?
Hey, what's up?
Driving home from taking my mother out for Mother's Day lunch today late.
Oh.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Hey, it still counts.
It's every day's Mother's Day. What are we talking about?
Every day is Mother's Day. That's right. Yes, sir. But yeah, I mean, if Phoenix does end up losing that game 5, they're in a very, very bad spot. They go down 3 games to 2 to Dallas.
Yeah, Chris Paul has to play better. He's like I say, he just hasn't played very good the last 2 games. Was one other thing. Jokic wins MVP. That was just I saw reports of that earlier that he's going to win the MVP. I'm glad he got it. I thought he should have got it, but I thought they would give it to Embiid just because that's all they talked about all year was how Embiid carried the Sixers. I'm like, yeah, I know the Sixers had a better record, but Jokic has been carrying the Nuggets all year. So,
and that's the one thing I want to applaud the NBA for. They are the one professional sports organization that doesn't award the MVP to the team that has the best record. They legitimately give it to the person that actually deserves the award, which is why you don't see Giannis getting it as much as people think he should, which is why you don't see LeBron James getting it as often as he should, just because realistically, LeBron James could win it every single year. Giannis could win it every single year, and that's mainly because their teams are going to finish with the best record at the end of the year. And if you look at the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NHL for that matter, most of the MVPs come from the team that has the best record. So for a guy like Jokic to get it, the NBA actually does it right where they give it to the player that's most deserving to have it.
Yeah, I agree. They do. Because I thought they were going to give it to Embiid because that's all you heard about was Embiid MVP. But Jokic he's put up better numbers this year than he did last year with less help. So I mean I was like, to me it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I am good with Jokic winning the MVP. He had a great season. He carried Denver. He had less, guys to help him. So, and he put up better numbers than he did last year. So, I am fine with him, winning it for a second straight year. I would have been good if Embiid or him would have won it. Those were the only 2 to me that were deserving of winning the MVP of this season. So either way, I was going to be good with it.
Well, we got the Bucks and Celtics tonight, game 4. Who do you guys got winning tonight?
I'm going with the Bucks tonight. I'm going with the Bucks. They're at home. You know, they get a lot of home cooking. With the refs at their place. So I'm gonna go with them tonight.
I'm going to go with Boston. I got Boston winning the series in 7 games. I don't know. At some point, you're going to have to expect Grayson Allen to cool off. And when that happens, who's going to be the Bucks version of Chris Middleton? Because they do not have another player on that roster that can hit the shots that Middleton can have. And that's why I think eventually, if Grayson Allen does start to cool off, that's going to be where the cracks in the Bucks' armor starts to show.
Yeah, man, I've been going back and forth. But I think the Bucks are going to win tonight, but I still think, like I told Greg, I think Celtics got kind of screwed on that Marcus Smart call. That was a big call, and you see that call in the act of shooting more than you would see that not called.
Yep. And Jason Tatum has to have more than he played 41 minutes and only had 10 points. If the Celtics gonna win this game, he has to score more than 10.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to score more than 10. That was not good at all.
but you can also look at it at the point that he only scored 10, and the Celtics was right there at the end with a chance to win that game.
Right? Yeah. They only lost by 2. Luckily, David Brown, kind of stepped in, and he had 7. So
I'm not going to take anything away from the Bucks in this playoff so far, but the Bucks really have to consider themselves fortunate right now, because you look at that first round series, they very easily could have been down and realistically should have been down 2-0 heading back to Chicago. And then guys like Zach LaVine gets out with COVID, Alex Caruso gets hurt, so not only did the Bucks already have a shorthanded Bulls team to begin, they ended up getting even a shorter Bulls roster those final 3 games and basically made it look extremely easy after that. And both of the losses that Boston has had against Milwaukee, Jason Tatum played like crap. So you get Jason Tatum to play the way he's capable of playing all 3 games of this series, Milwaukee could be down 2-1 or even 3-0. So the Bucks have to be fortunate that they're in the position they're in, because realistically, who they've played haven't given the Bucks much of a competition so far through 2 rounds.
Yeah. And the strategy of letting Giannis get his and, don't let nobody else, get into a groove almost worked in this last game, because Giannis had 42. And
that's how you beat Milwaukee. You let Giannis be Giannis, Giannis get his, and you force everybody else on that Bucks roster to beat you. And without Chris Middleton, I don't think they have enough guys who can consistently beat you on a given night.
Drew Holiday is just not consistent enough, especially with not having Middleton.
Yeah, I mean, he had.
Yeah, Drew Holiday is. Drew.
Oh no, I was just gonna say he had 25 last night, but he took 30. He took 30 shots. So
yeah,
I mean, that's way too many. If you're gonna shoot it 30 times, you gotta have at least 40. So I mean, that's not all that good.
Hey, Greg, are your Kansas City Chiefs still looking for any defensive backs?
We're always looking for something. Well, we got
the New York.
We had a pretty good draft of defensive backs.
Because the New York Giants just cut James Bradbury to clear $10 million in cap space.
I'm sure he'll be getting a call. I'm I'm sure he'll be getting a call. Yeah. We definitely we need as many as possible for sure.
All right, let's see what the other going ahead. Then tonight you have Grizzlies and Warriors, game 4 tonight. Have you heard if Morant's playing tonight?
Ja Morant is out for Game 5. He's out for Game 4. He's probably going to be out for Game 5, and this series is officially over starting tonight.
Yep, I agree. Without Ja Morant, and like we were saying earlier, yes, the Memphis is 20-5 without Morant, but that's in the regular season.
Yeah,
missing your star player in the playoffs is a lot different.
Let's look at Game 3, for example. Ja Morant had 34 points before he got hurt, and yet Golden State still won by 30 because they scored 142.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? Even with Ja Morant on the court, Golden State was still going to win that game. And they're starting to look like the Golden State Warriors back when they had Kevin Durant, where you literally have 3 players that are going to give you 25 points or more every single night.
Yeah. Especially with Stephen Clay shot the ball a lot better in Game 3 than they did in Game 1 or 2. Yep. And the way Jordan Poole's playing.
Yeah, I just feel like even with Ja, it was going to be hard for Memphis to win this series. But now he's going to be out for Game 4 and 5. Boy, oh boy. And I don't see nobody. I mean, you would say, maybe Brooks and Desmond Bane can kind of step up, but Desmond Bane, I don't know what's happened with him. He couldn't miss in the first round, and then in this round, he hasn't been shooting the ball well. That's gonna be hard for Memphis to win these two without Ja. Who's gonna step in and put up 35? Because you're missing 35 points. 35, 40 points. So unless Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bane somehow shoot the ball out of this world tonight, Golden State's going to end up winning.
If he's out the next 2 games, I don't see the Grizzlies winning another game in this series. I think it'll be over in 5.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely looking like it.
I've said this for a while now that Golden State was going to. I mean, my pick originally was I thought Memphis was going to come out of the West. But then I kind of flipped on that and said Golden State was going to come out of the West just because Phoenix hasn't looked the part of what they looked like during the regular season so far in the postseason. But the thing with Golden State Warriors that everybody fails to realize, they've had so much success over the last 7 years that they're no longer a regular season team because they get bored in the regular season. They really do, because they pretty much know that as long as that roster is healthy, they're guaranteed to be in the playoffs. So they're bored during the regular season, so all of a sudden they get into the playoffs as a top 3 seed, and they just turn it up to a whole new level than what they did during the regular season, because the Warriors that we're seeing in the postseason was not around during the regular season. Even when Klay Thompson came back and they had all their pieces in place, they were not playing at the level they're playing at right now, and that's because it's the playoffs now. They mean business come the playoffs. There's a reason why Steve Kerr is 19-2 in playoff series as a head coach, with both those losses coming in either the NBA Finals or the Western Conference Finals. Once they get to the postseason, they flip the switch and mean business in a different way, and they're doing it again right now. Memphis had the second best defense in the NBA behind Miami, and Golden State dropped 142 points on them on Memphis's own floor, at Golden State's house. They're in Golden State again. That number 2 defense is going to get tested again. And if Golden State starts hitting shots early, it's going to be a long night for the Grizzlies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I just don't see now without Ja, like I said, who's going to step up and score that 35, 40 points. If it's not going to be Bain and it's not going to be Brooks, then
Jaren Jackson's the only one that can do it, but he hasn't done that consistently.
Yeah, he hasn't, exactly. So they're running out of, options down there. So it looks like this is Golden State series now. Definitely.
Yeah, I thought Golden State would win the series anyway, but I think now that it could be a lot shorter series because I just think Memphis is going to struggle without Morant because it helps Warriors on defense as well. When you don't have to worry about a guy like Morant, it's going to help them defensively locking up on the other guys.
Yeah.
And the thing with Golden State right now too is Jordan Poole's coming off the bench, but there's certain parts during the game where Thompson, Curry, and Jordan Poole are on the floor at the same time with Andrew Wiggins and with Draymond Green when they want to go small.
Yep.
As a defense, who do you decide you want to guard? You want to take Curry? You want to take Curry away? Fine. We got Klay Thompson who can knock down threes. You want to take Thompson away? We got Poole and Curry that can knock him down. You want to try to take Poole away? You still have three other options. As a defense right now, even without Ja Morant, you basically have to pick your poison at this point and decide who you want to guard at a given moment, but realizing there's still three other three-point shooters on that roster that can get hot and make you look foolish.
And Andrew Wiggins not only been playing good defensively, he's had a good offensive year too. He's had one of his better years. He was all-star. Exactly. People don't talk about him very much.
Exactly. That's because Jordan Poole's playing at the level he's played at this postseason, but Andrew Wiggins is a guy that can give you 30 points too. That's why, even with a healthy roster, even as good as Miami is defensively, as good as Milwaukee and Boston are defensively, is there realistically a team that's left in the playoffs that has enough to guard the Warriors 1 through 5 on a consistent basis and keep them under like 110 points?
No, I don't.
So.
I don't see it. I mean, the Heat are a good defensive team, but to hold Golden State under 110 if they meet up in the final, I don't.
Memphis held them to under 110 in Game 2, and that's why Memphis won. Yep. Going back to even the first round series with Golden State, I don't think Golden State was held under 110 points that entire series. Yes, they lost two of those games, or one of those games, I think, but I think they had at least 110 points that entire series. If you don't hold Golden State to under 110, you don't really have a shot to beat them.
And they're averaging like right around 116 points a game in the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah, and they just dropped 142 against the number 2 defense in the NBA. So
that's why when this playoff started, I did pick them because I said this team is built for, just like Dustin said, they're built for postseason. And I just felt like these guys, Klay, Steph, Draymond, they've been here before. They've done it. When you have a veteran team that's won before, they know how to win. They know what to do to win, and that's why I feel confident in picking them to not just make the final, but win the whole thing, because the team is just loaded, talent-wise. It's just everybody didn't get a chance to see it during the regular season because they were either bored or they would, pick and choose when they wanted to, show that. But now everybody sees it, and I don't see a team that can beat them.
And you go back to the 90s and early 2000s, you have maybe a couple good three-point shooters. Golden State legitimately has 3 or 4 good three-point shooters on their roster, and if you put this roster back in the 90s, this would have been like having Ray Allen and Reggie Miller on your team at the same time, where you put those two on the same team in the early 90s, who in the heck would have been able to defend that team? Because you didn't have three-point shooters like that in the 90s. You had like 1 or 2 that was good, and that was it. Not the same amount of those players on the same team. And I said this on the morning show this morning. Steve Kerr is the best coach left in the playoffs. I mean, Eric Spoelstra, he's a terrific head coach, but Steve Kerr is the best coach remaining and that's because he has general manager experience. When he was in Phoenix as the general manager, he's the one that built that roster that had Steve Nash and Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire and Josh Richardson when the Phoenix Suns were making the Western Conference Finals those 3 years. And if you look at how that team was constructed, and if you look at how this Warriors team is constructed, the teams are built very similar. And when Kerr was in there in Phoenix, he kind of discovered that a running up and down the court, three-point shooting team that didn't have a ton of size could be successful in the NBA. That's why they won 55 to 60 games every year for 4 years. He took that roster that he built in Phoenix, basically built the same exact thing in Golden State, and look what's happened.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The only difference is they play a little better defense at Golden State than they do in Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between the two. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's because Mike D'Antoni was their coach back then, and Mike D'Antoni never cared about defense.
He never cared at all. He sure didn't.
All right. In the NFL, we'll move and talk a little NFL. Pete Carroll says Drew Lock would be the first quarterback selected, or would have been the first quarterback selected in this year's draft if it even came out this year. You guys agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
And that's not saying too much for this year's draft class. That just shows you how weak of a quarterback heavy class it was.
Yep, I agree. Because I think he'd have got drafted sooner than any of these guys did, and it's just I didn't think there would be I didn't think a quarterback should have got drafted in the first round, but I figured he was going to be at 20 to Pittsburgh.
I figured one quarterback was going to be taken. I figured Kenny Pickett was going to be taken in the first round. I thought he would honestly go higher than he did. I thought Carolina might take a shot on him earlier, just because knowing that you still had Sam Darnold yet for this year, you wouldn't have to rush Kenny Pickett. And you could let him sit for a year and kind of see what you had out of him. Same thing with Pittsburgh taking him where they took him. You have Mitchell Trubisky for this year where you don't have to start Kenny Pickett if you don't want to. Yeah. So like this year's quarterback class as compared to the others, none of these quarterbacks are going to start this year unless of an injury. And that's kind of why even if you did, I guess, swing for the fences and take a quarterback in the first round, some teams are going to question you and some fans are going to question your decision. But at the same time, you're kind of getting a mulligan out of it because you don't have to start any of these quarterbacks right away this year. You can sit them for a year, see what you actually have with them, and then kind of decide next year if you want to turn the keys over to them then or if you want to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah. Drew Lock would have been the first quarterback taken in this draft, but that says more about who else was in it. Yeah. Like I always said about Lock. Lock was very good in college, yes, but he's just an average quarterback. That's just what he is. And can he win you some games? He can win you some games, but he's not.
He can lose you some games too.
Yeah, and he can lose you some. Yeah, he'll make you lose more than win. But I mean, we saw it. He had his chance in Denver. He had a good defense and still wasn't able to get them to the playoffs. So you put him anywhere now. Would he be good as a backup? And you say, okay, well, my starter is injured. I need you in for a couple games. Can he, do well in a couple games? Sure, yeah, he can. But as far as a starter, no, it's not good.
No, I agree. My thoughts on it is Locke would be the first quarterback taken, but it's not because of his skill. It's because of, like you said, it says more about this year's draft. But Locke, that's how I view Locke. I view Locke as a real solid backup quarterback in the NFL. He's a guy that seems like you don't hear a whole lot about him complaining and stuff. So it seems like he's a good team guy.
Yeah.
He, like you said, he can come in for 2 or 3 games and play well, but he can't do it. He hasn't proven that he can do it consistently for throughout a whole season.
Right, definitely. So, what did y'all?
Yeah, and the way I kind of view him this year.
Go ahead.
The way I kind of view him this year too is kind of a younger version of Nick Foles, where Nick Foles was always seen as a placeholder. Where a team that needed a quarterback desperately for like 1 year, they would sign Nick Foles expecting to kind of get that Philadelphia magic out of him for 1 year. You end up drafting a quarterback for the future, and then you move on from Foles after that. That's kind of how I see Drew Lock at this point, and maybe even the next couple years after this, where he has starter experience, where he's shown flashes, but not consistently. So, like with Houston, obviously Houston committed to Davis Mills, but after Seattle lost Russell Wilson, they needed a quarterback. So they made that trade for Russell Wilson, brought Drew Lock in just so they have that quarterback for this year. Well, you know damn well if Seattle gets a top 10 pick, they're going quarterback in next year's draft. So then Drew Lock kind of is in a similar situation where if you have a team like Washington, or if you have a team like Houston, or any of these teams that might be looking for a quarterback, Drew Lock can be that placeholder for 1 year. You get him in there, see what you can get out of him, and then if you get a quarterback in the top 10 next year, you just kind of move on from him.
Yeah, with that, and I agree with you that that's what they did. But does that say something about how teams feel about Baker Mayfield, that Seattle would rather trade and get a Drew Lock, or is that just because of the salary?
I think it's both.
Yeah,
I think obviously the salary has something to do with it when you're making $17 million and you really haven't shown consistently that you're worth $17 million. But at least in Drew Lock's case, Drew Lock knows that he's not a long-term option unless he proves it on the field. Baker Mayfield, on the other hand, has been in the league 4 years, going on 5 years now. He's shown that when the pieces are around him, he's a playoff caliber quarterback. So in Baker's mind, he's already sitting there like, I went to Cleveland, a team that was terrible when I got here. I gave them 3 winning seasons. I put them in the playoffs once. So at least I know that I can make the playoffs, versus Drew Lock's like, nobody really knows what they have in me yet because I haven't consistently shown anybody what I can do.
Yeah.
Damian Hernandez says Seattle needs to get Cap.
He can't be no worse than what they have now. I always said, look, all the political stuff to the side, Colin Kaepernick deserves to be at least a backup on somebody's team. I mean, let's stop the blackballing and all this other nonsense and just let this guy play.
No, I agree that he's good enough to be in the league. I just don't know if he wants to take a backup job. I would think he still wants a chance to be the starter on the team.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the NFL last year, if you look at the NFL last year, though, how many teams could Colin Kaepernick have actually started for? Realistically, there was probably 5 or 6 teams that Colin Kaepernick should have started for that he never got the chance. He was better than Davis. He was better than Sam Darnold or P.J. Walker or Cam Newton or anybody else that Matt Rule decided he wanted to throw out there in Carolina, so he should have ended up there, at least given a chance there. Once Jameis Winston went down in New Orleans, Kaepernick was better than anybody else that New Orleans was going to throw out there. So that's already 3 teams right there that he should have started for. We already seen Daniel Jones have his 5th-year option declined by the Giants. Why wasn't Kaepernick given a chance in New York to see if he was better than Daniel Jones? I mean, there's so many teams that Kaepernick should have gotten an opportunity with that had terrible quarterback play, but yet nobody has the balls to say, we're going to give this guy a 1-year deal to see if he still has something left.
All right. And all that other stuff, people shouldn't even be thinking about that now. Enough time has passed now. If you're still upset about what Kaepernick did with the kneeling, then you need to get some sort of life or something. Because enough time has passed now. You shouldn't hold a grudge that long over something like that.
No, I agree. I agree. He should have got an opportunity, but at this point, since he never did, I don't. Now I think it's kind of passed over. He's not going to get one, unfortunately.
I think he will.
Yeah,
But
eventually somebody's gonna take a chance on him.
I think he will, and the only two coaches that I think are gonna even possibly consider it would be anybody that was under Jim Harbaugh's staff in San Francisco. Whether that be Robert Saleh in New York, whether that be, I think, a couple defensive coordinators that might get a head coaching opportunity in the next couple of years. Somebody that was on that Jim Harbaugh staff, is going to give him a shot. Because they went to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick as their quarterback. So they know what you can get out of him when you put the right offensive scheme in place and you give him even serviceable weapons. Because you look at the San Francisco team that he had, you had Vernon Davis as your tight end. Can any of you name who his number one wide receiver was that year?
Crabtree. Michael Crabtree.
Okay, and what happened to Michael Crabtree after leaving San Francisco?
He did nothing.
And who was San Francisco's running back under Colin Kaepernick?
Frank Gore, I believe.
Exactly, a guy who's been in the league for 16 years, who's not he's a top 5 running back all time, but he's not somebody that you can count on to give you 1,000 yards at this point in his career. So Colin Kaepernick did a lot with a little. So you put him in a team that actually has a lot surrounding him. I'm not saying he's going to win an MVP or anything like that, but I have a feel if you were to put him in a team like Kansas City, if you were to put him in a team like the Chargers that actually has like all these offensive pieces around him, I think he would be very similar to a Lamar Jackson. A guy that can beat you with his legs, but he's still a competent enough passer where he can make things happen with his arm.
Yeah. What's up, Rob?
What's up, Rob?
Thanks for watching, my guy. Well, that was the rumor for a little while was Andy Reid might get Cap to like run some Wildcat and stuff, which I wouldn't have mind, and I don't think Pat would have, would have thought that was would have thought that was a bad deal. It would have gave the Chiefs a different offensive weapon, certainly. But just like you said, Dustin, somebody from Harbaugh's staff or Andy Reid. The only reason why I say Andy Reid is because he took a chance on Vic when nobody wanted Mike Vick because of dog fighting, and he, gave Vic that second chance in Philly. So, other than those two guys, a couple guys, then I don't know who else would get Cap.
Yeah, I think one of them two would, but I don't know if anybody else. Or like Dustin said, Saleh, because he was there in San Francisco with them. One of them guys that was with them in San Francisco, I could see maybe giving them a chance.
Yeah. But he does deserve to be on somebody's team, yes.
And even at worst, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, when the XFL comes back next year, somebody in the XFL better have Colin Kaepernick on their roster to see what he has left in the tank. Because now, not only are you getting Colin Kaepernick for cheap, because I think XFL salary is like $100,000. I think that's what the Rock said they were going to be, was like $100,000 per player. So now, not only are you getting Colin Kaepernick at $100,000, but you're putting him in the national spotlight right away with the XFL having the TV deals they have. And you could have like a PJ Walker scenario where PJ Walker took the XFL by storm and all of a sudden lands a contract with Carolina. Let's just say Kaepernick signs in the XFL, tears it up like PJ Walker did. You know damn well that's going to open so many more doors for the NFL, and they're going to be like, okay, I guess this guy can still play. Let's get him in here as a backup and see what we can do with him.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. And I would definitely be watching that. If he's in the XFL and Cap is playing, I'm definitely gonna watch.
Yeah, well, I watched the XFL when it came back a couple of years ago, and I was enjoying it. And then the pandemic hit and took it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they bring a guy like Cap in, I'm definitely going to even watch it probably more.
Yep.
So I was watching a lot of it when it came back, and then pandemic took it under.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys can argue too that when the XFL came back 2 years ago, as good of a product as the NFL has, I mean, the NFL obviously has the top product because they have the most money. I would argue that the XFL put a better product on the field at some point just because of the rule changes they made with like that kickoff rule where the guys line up 10 yards apart from each other and they're not allowed to run at each other until the return guy catches it. Then you had like all those other like camera angles and the microphones and all that stuff. I thought the XFL honestly had a better product than the NFL for a while. It just didn't obviously have the quality of players.
Yeah, especially like TV product was great, and the way they done the replays where you could hear the replay official talking to the officials and stuff.
And they're using Xbox video game controllers to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was cool because you got to hear their thought process. Even if they still thought they still got the call wrong, at least you knew how they got to that call.
Right.
Exactly.
I think the NFL should go to a replay like that. I don't know if they ever will, but they need to. I think that would make it a lot. Then even the fans are complaining. At least like I said, you know how it happened that way.
I'm honestly at the point now in my life where when they brought instant replay in to the equation, I loved it because I wanted like as many calls right as possible. But now I'm at the point where if they did away with instant replay, I would be perfectly okay with it just because the human error side of things is part of the game.
Yep.
You don't have instant replay in high school. You have very limited instant replay in college where if a mistake is made, it's just the human error side of things where you shouldn't let one mistake here or there dictate the outcome of a game. Yes, granted, like the Des Bryant catch in Green Bay back in like 2014 or 2015, I still think was a catch. Just because I don't know how you can't call that a catch at this point. But there's calls like that where, okay, yes, you should have went to instant replay, maybe change the call. But how many times now do we see as fans that the runner should be down instead of a fumble and they call a fumble? Or the catch is clearly a catch, but for some reason they call it incomplete because the receiver had 3 feet down, got pushed out of bounds, and then when he hit the ground, the ball came loose. But because he didn't complete the process to the ground, it's an incomplete pass. Well, having 3 feet down last time I checked counts as a catch. So I don't understand how you can't get a catch out of it. That's why I'm at the point now where just do away with the whole replay side of things and let the human error factor just be part of the game.
I remember I was a kid at the time. I remember in '98 when the NFL did the no replay thing. That wasn't all that good. I will say it was some calls. I was like, okay, but so that's when they brought it back that following year. But human error is part of it, yes. But my only thing is I want the replay still there just so that when we get to the big, playoff games and you get to your Super Bowl, you want to make sure that the calls are as right as they can be. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, but at least you want the calls to be as right as they can be. Now, like I said, the Des Bryant and all that, hey, that was if you're a Cowboys fan, it's a bad call, and it's but
I'm not a Cowboys fan, and that was a bad call.
Yeah, I know that.
Just like the Calvin Johnson catch the year before that against the Bears, where he caught it, had both knees and an elbow on the ground, sets the football on the ground with his right hand and lets it go, and somehow that's an incomplete pass.
It's incomplete, right? Yeah. So if those are cases where those were bad calls and replays should have changed it and it didn't, But overall, I'm okay with having a replay because, like I said, nothing is perfect, but let's get them close to being right. So
I'm kind of torn on it because I agree with what Dustin's saying too, that you have the human error, but sometimes it's like, man, and then you go back and you're like, man, we have to have some kind of replay because sometimes there's too much.
yeah, a lot.
But
Yeah.
replay also, to me, it affects the rhythm of the game too, and that's the thing I hate about it, because a team can have momentum. You stop that to do that replay, and that can kill an offense's momentum on a drive that they're on, and just when you're watching it on TV, it hurts your the TV product as well, because you're saying, all right, come on, let's get the next play going. But the thing I don't like about the replays is sometimes it's a coach's challenge, but then at certain parts of the game, only the Blitz could.
Yeah, the last 2 minutes.
Make it one way.
Yep.
Just stick with that.
Make it one way and put a timer on it. Like they always said that, I think it was like 60 or 90 seconds was the most a replay could take, and then you had to make a decision, and yet you still had some of these replays taking 3 or 4 minutes for whatever reason. The replay should never take that long. Put a 45-second timer on it where if you're watching a replay for more than 45 seconds, the replay automatically shuts off. And then you have to go with either the original call, or you have to go with your gut after that 45 seconds to make the call. Because if you can't determine whether to change that replay in around 45 seconds, then you shouldn't be changing the call at all if you can't make that decision after 45 seconds. For how good a camera angles you have.
Yeah.
For how many camera angles you get watching that instant replay, how many different views that you get on that screen for instant replay compared to what the fans get, you can't determine a different outcome or the same outcome based off of that 45 seconds, the call should not be overturned. It should just be left as is and just keep things going.
Yeah, I agree, because if you have to think about it that much, it was too close of a call to be changing.
Yeah. And in those cases, that's where the call on the field is so important, because so once we do the replay and we're like, okay, we got to stick with what was called, then that means that call on the field is very important. So that's why I feel like you're supposed to have your best refs during the playoffs and during the Super Bowl and all that. There were some calls in last year's playoffs that were good, and there were some that I was kind of like, okay, that's not really, what was y'all looking at? But overall, like they used to have the all-star crews for the NFL playoffs, and then they went away with that and took the crews that have been together all season and put them in. Who was I forget the guy's name. Who was that referee that he messed up in the Raiders-Bengals game and he couldn't do another playoff game the rest of the playoffs?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't think of his name right now, but I didn't have a problem with that because he did get it wrong. And I feel like the NFL should do that more. Hey, guys, we know that, you're not going to be 100% right all of the time. But the obvious calls, you have to get those right. And if you can't, then you guys have to sit out the rest of the playoffs. You can't do another playoff game.
I wish baseball would get rid of some of their umpires.
And even baseball.
Angel Hernandez?
Yes, man, he is terrible. I don't know how he still has a job.
Everybody
because he can use the minority card if they fire him.
Man, he's terrible.
Yeah.
That game.
Going off of that last comment that Damian put up there about the instant replay and how how a lot of the calls are still being wrong. I can't remember the stat that I saw last year, but they were looking at whenever they go to instant replay, the amount of calls that are overturned as opposed to whatnot. Last year, the amount of calls that were overturned in the NFL was 41%. And of that 41%, I think they said like 27% was actually overturned in the correct favor, and 14% was overturned in the incorrect favor, which is not a very good percentage. If you look at the XFL when they were doing their replays, 90% of the replays that were called went the correct way. So when the XFL did it the way they were doing it, their way was working because 90% of the replays that they did in the XFL came back in the ruling that it should have been, as opposed to the NFL. You're looking at 40% of the calls being overturned, and only a small fraction of that is actually being overturned the way it should be.
And then the XFL, their replay process was a lot quicker too.
And the thing with the XFL too is what nobody realizes. When the NFL goes to instant replay, they're going to somebody in New York that literally is watching 7, 8, 9 games at a time. So whenever somebody throws a replay flag, say in Kansas City's got to call New York City and be like, hey, we need you to look at the Kansas City game quick and look at this play. So you're having somebody that's in charge of watching 9 games having to like find out what play they're talking about, versus the XFL. They literally had 3 people specifically at one game in charge of that replay. The next stadium, they had 3 people specifically in charge of that game for one replay. That's what the NFL needs to do. They need to get rid of this whole going to New York City crap to get the replay figured out, and just hire 1 or 2 people specifically for each game that just does replay. Put them up in the press box, so when the replay comes in, you have the 2 people that are sitting up in the press box at that game where they can just pull up the play and look at it, as opposed to going to one person in New York that's in charge of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. And if the NFL would do it that way, you will see replay would be
so much faster. The calls would be so much more accurate because you're going to have the same eyes on that game that the referees are seeing, just from a different vantage point, as opposed to getting eyes from one specific city that has eyes on a bunch of different games and just at different times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I agree, because you get one person trying to do too much, there's going to be you're going to get mistakes. What happens if he's looking at this game and then a flag gets thrown at another game? Now he needs to be overlooking at this one. So
Yep.
And then in the middle of him looking at that game, another flag gets thrown for a different game, so he's got to somehow switch over to the other game quick to look at that one.
yeah.
And that's what makes that. And that's probably the reason why the replays take so long during the season. Is it's only one guy. He's looking at this. Okay, I got to finish this one. Then I can go to this other game that has a challenge flag, and I got to look at that. That's taking 5-10 minutes right there. So, I mean, if you have them at the game, it just makes the process easier.
So much smoother.
Yeah,
and like Dustin said, you're getting guys that have been watching the whole game and are seeing the same thing that everybody else is seeing, instead of been watching a different game as well, or 14 other games.
All right. That's right.
Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
Here's something I wanted to touch on. There was a Dynasty quarterback ranks that I saw on Facebook. I had to laugh at this top 10 that they did. So they had Josh Allen 1, Lamar Jackson 2. Okay, I started laughing. Justin Herbert was 3. Patrick Mahomes was 4th. Joe Burrow was 5th. Kyler Murray was 6th. Trey Lance was 7th. Where'd that come from? And then Jalen Hurts was 8. Justin Fields was 9. And then Deshaun Watson at 10. Any quarterback ranking thing, I don't care if it's fantasy or whatever kind of rank you're doing, if you don't have Patrick Mahomes at 1 or 2, there's something wrong with your ranking list. I'm sorry.
If you have Lamar Jackson in the top 5, you have something wrong with your ranking.
There's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with it. And I saw that and I was just like, what? What? Like, so, and, I get nothing against, Josh Allen. He had a tremendous season last
I
year.
guess the only thing that I can think of, are they going off of regular season statistics, or are they going off of fantasy statistics? Because if you're going off of fantasy stats, then I can kind of see why Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are up there, because they get as many points with their legs as they do with their arms. Because if you look at a lot of the quarterbacks in that top 10 list, outside of maybe Mahomes and Burrow, those quarterbacks have that dual threat option where they're giving you points with the legs and the arms. So is it based off of that, or is it based off of just what they do in the regular season?
It's from Pro Football Focus Fantasy. So I'm guessing fantasy does have something to do with it. Yeah,
so then I can see why that ranking is the way it is, just because Mahomes doesn't use his legs as much as Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Herbert or any of the other guys.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess I could see that. But I'm just, any quarterback that doesn't have Pat 1 or 2, I kind of question. I'm like, okay. Because, since Brady is back now, a lot of people are gonna have Brady as 1, and that's fine. I don't have no issue with that. But if you don't have Pat at least 1 or 2, it's like, okay. So, yeah, what are they smoking, Damien? That's true.
Greg ain't gonna take this not giving Mahomes his respect stuff.
Yeah, when we have these, so the different shows, they talk about top 10, and a lot of times Patrick Mahomes, I feel like he gets looked over because it's always, well, he had the best talent in the league. He should have been. It's like, come on, guys. Like, what are we? Okay, so Alex Smith had the same talent. What does that? So, what does that mean? Like, yes, Patrick Mahomes had the most talent, and he accomplished the most with that talent. And you're gonna see this year with a different kind of offense, he's still gonna win a lot of games, and he's gonna win playoff games. So I just feel like a lot of times he gets kind of looked over for, Josh Allen is the big arm and all that strong, and Lamar Jackson is the, he's shifty and fast and all this other stuff. So Patrick Mahomes is what, if Tom Brady didn't decide to come back, if he would have stayed home, you would have to argue Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the entire league.
Yeah.
That's just,
you could
that's
say
just how I feel.
you have to move up there.
How Trey Lance on
Yeah. David said he's still trying to figure out how Trey Lance is on the list.
We haven't even seen him play, even on a fantasy list. I'm guessing this is the fantasy list. We haven't seen him play, so I don't even know how fantasy-wise Trey Lance.
I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't draft him. I have no 6 or 7 top quarterback in fantasy.
No, that didn't make no sense either. So I mean, does he have? I mean, is Trey Lance talented? Yes, but we haven't seen. He hasn't played.
I don't think he's going to start this season. I think Garoppolo is going to be their starter.
Yeah. They're going to start with Jimmy, but if it starts going now, it's going to be the same thing like last year. Them first 4 games, if it starts, going downhill, then you can see Trey Lance coming there. But I just find it interesting when we do these lists for top 10 quarterbacks, how Patrick Mahomes gets kind of looked over by some people.
He's always been looked over, in my opinion, though, the fact that he fell to number 10.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. The Bears could have had him. Bears could have had him.
Bears could have had him. Bears could have had him. The Texans could have had him. Any of those teams could have had him. But yet, why did he go where he did? Because he did not have the same amount of success in college as Deshaun Watson did. He did not have the breakout year that Mitch Trubisky had, even though Mitch Trubisky had one breakout year. But he didn't have the breakout year that Trubisky had that put him on the center stage. He came from Texas Tech, who's not only considered the little brother to Texas, but it's considered the little brother to Texas, the Texas A&M to Baylor to TCU, and all these other schools in Texas. So even if he would have put up amazing numbers, it's still Texas Longhorn football in Texas. You never talk about Texas Tech. And the only time Texas Tech was ever talked about was when Michael Crabtree did what he did his senior year in college to get put on the map when Graham Harrell was throwing him passes that he had no business throwing, and Crabtree was somehow catching him.
Oh, Graham Harrell.
Yep, that was the best Texas Tech team they ever had. Was that one? Yep. Ended up beating Texas that season.
Yep.
Damian said that they're good with Justin Fields. Hey, Justin. Look, I think Justin Fields is gonna turn out fine. He's gonna turn out fine once they.
I think he'll be all right now. They got rid of Nagy, got him away from Nagy.
Yeah. His life will be better now.
Because honestly, I think Trubisky can be all right, but I think Nagy was a lot of that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, his Nagy's job here in KC is just to be quiet and listen to Pat.
Be quiet and you might get a ring.
Yeah. Whatever Pat says goes. Don't give any advice or suggest anything. Just whatever Pat Mahomes says, do it. That's it.
All right, this has been the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. I want to thank everybody for joining us. You have any final thoughts, Greg?
Oh, man, it's going to be some critical games tonight. Bucks and Celtics, a must-win for the Celtics, and we'll see how the Grizzlies do without Ja.
I think they're in trouble without Ja.
They are.
Oh, I guess Dustin didn't have any final thoughts.
Yeah. He's ready. He's ready. He's getting ready to watch the games tonight. Yeah.
But no, thank everybody for joining us. We will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. We'll talk about tonight's NBA playoff games. Maybe talk a little bit Major League Baseball tomorrow. If anything else big happens in the NFL, we'll touch on it. We basically touch on all the top stories that we can get to. But thanks for joining us. We will see you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're out in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
Get ready. This summer, the Arena League Sports is on ASAP Network. Tune in live on either the Tiki Live or Roku app, as well as your smart home TV.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365 5, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. Sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. We on top of our game. All sports.